Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contra Costa School of Performing Arts Back to School Night, COVID edition, September 10th, 2020. And I know that it says 2021 on my slide. I'm not going to change it because I feel that is a bit of a Freudian slip of how desperate we all are for this nightmare of a year to end. But I'm going to say the correct year, which I did not do in my first recording of tonight's presentation. Oh, all right. So this is 8th grade social studies or social science or U.S. history or all three with Miss Montgomery. I am a founding staff member of Contra Costa School for Performing Arts. I have a BA in Liberal Arts and a minor in History from Holy Names. I have a teaching credential from St. Mary's. I'm a single parent of 2 boys, one of which is a 10th grader at SPA. The other is in 5th grade at Walnut Acres. I teach history and PE, and I'm the wellness coordinator. I love teaching, and I feel really honored to work with our students. My teaching philosophy, and I apologize for the grammar here because it kind of goes between talking to you as the parent and talking to the kids as the kids. But I really believe that every student wants to do well in school. I feel if a student feels empowered, they can learn anything. My students are my clients. I work with them and for them. I have high expectations of students' social behavior. I have high expectations of students' academic work. I believe everyone carries a piece of the truth. We are all teachers and we are all learners. And this is an example of our class norms, not radically different from the norms we'd have in a traditional in-person classroom. Students start to take responsibility for the energy that they bring into our space. So am I. I may mute the chat periodically, but the kids really don't like that. They really want to be able to communicate and respond and engage. So I've been really fortunate that your kids have been so responsible and respectful and polite on the chat and kind of just really kind and generous with each other. So while it's muted periodically, I generally keep it on. We all help to build the community by building trust with one another and the ability to listen and share with respect. We assume best intentions. They assume mine, I assume theirs, and others in the class. We engage with the curriculum, and we construct our ideas with evidence and ethics. This is what we're working on currently. So our unit is called All Men Created Equal, and the students and I decided we needed to add a question mark to that because that's really what we're trying to understand. And so checkpoint 1 is a deep dive into some primary and secondary sources around the status of women at the time of the creation of the Constitution. And then students write an evidence-based paragraph, which is the same process for all 4 of these checkpoints. Checkpoint 2 is what was the status of American Indians at the time of the creation of the U.S. Constitution. Checkpoint 3 will be what was the status of Black people at the time of the creation of the U.S. Constitution. And then checkpoint 4, the big question is who had status or power at the time of the creation of the U.S. Constitution. And that really has us look with a critical lens at the document, at the Constitution, and look at the very clear language that the Founding Fathers used to describe people without land and people without money. And they had very specific ideas around people who were lower socioeconomic means and whether they should have power politically or not. Final products, there are 2 for this project. An evidence-based paragraph answering the big question, how do we interpret the implementation of all men created equal historically? And then the really fun and kind of creative and choice-driven part of the final product is that students will choose one of the groups that we learned about in checkpoints 1 through 4 and research any current inequalities facing that group today. Students are expected to create an infographic or a slide presentation And we might throw in some other types of projects that they could make. I haven't decided what is the best way with with social distancing, with distance learning. So, but the rest of this project is basically the same as it was last year. This is a slide I showed the kids, and so I thought I'd show it to you as well, so you can understand kind of like the types of conversations we're already starting to have in class. And they're really exciting conversations. Your kids are insanely intelligent, super bright, super passionate, and it's really fun. And it's bittersweet because if they weren't that engaged and passionate, then our Zoom times would be like super boring. But it makes my heart hurt that we're not together, because I know we'd be having some dynamic classes. But we're going to do the very best we can, and I'm just really grateful for all of their passion and their intelligence. So, talking about terms, labels, why we use what we use. As a class, we recognize that language is fluid and evolves and changes over time. We looked at the word queer and how that's changed a lot in the last like 30 or 40 years. God, more than that. We recognize that, excuse me, at this moment, and according to the most recent research, Black Americans and American Indians are the quote preferred terms for these groups. And then we talked about the citation below and where this information came from, and looked at the website. We recognize that any label can feel offensive, especially if an offensive tone is used or an offensive idea is being shared. We understand that when this country was founded, enslaved peoples or free Black peoples in America were not legal American citizens. So the term African American isn't accurate. We know that there are other acceptable terms for American Indians, such as Native Americans, Indigenous peoples, and First Nation peoples. And then I just always encourage the kids, if they are struggling with any of these things, or as parents, if you're concerned about anything, just please reach out to me. So what should have already been done in our class is checkpoint 1. It was due last Friday and has already been graded. Please check with your student to see their work. Overall, their work was phenomenal. Their writing is strong. They're really trying to stay centered in the evidence, which is cool. Is what I'm looking for. The argumentative claims are strong. My biggest complaint is that I had about 60% that still haven't turned it in. So I did share that data with the kids, and we're working on improving our score and like just getting more what I call first tries in. So the kids always have an opportunity to redo a checkpoint if it's, if it doesn't make the cut the first time. But I really want to push them to like not let the work pile up and get it in and meet a deadline. So that's something we're working on. It's only the second month. The Power Focus Area Revolutionary America should have been passed already, and students should be studying for U.S. Constitution, which is our next Power Focus Area. What's coming up is checkpoint 2, which is due Tuesday the 15th. And students have already started and should be continuing gathering evidence through the American Indians and the Constitution document set. That was assigned, we started as a class on Friday the 4th. This is where we're going. This is the scope and sequence of 8th grade history. So it's generally the founding of the United States, mid-1700s, through the rise of industrialization, late 1800s. But we're always trying to connect the through line to now. So we will be talking about a lot of current issues. But what I'm hoping that we do is we inform our conversations, and we inform our understanding of current issues through the lens of the history, because that makes us more powerful when we want to like make changes or run for public office, or when we're voting, like when we're just being citizens. If we understand the history and the through line, it makes us more powerful. But I also want the students to feel like what they're learning about is relevant. So we'll always kind of try to connect it. So we are currently studying the U.S. Constitution. through the lens of those different identities that we talked about. We move on to slavery next and the impact on our country today, which is absolutely critical that our kids, understand the history and why we are in the situation that we are in right now, because it's explainable, but we do need to know the background. Then we move on to a project called Intention and Impact, where we look at westward expansion and the genocide of Native Americans or American Indians. Then we look at the historical events of the Civil War, Reconstruction, and industrialization. And we look through all of those events through the lens of immigrants. And we kind of investigate the different attitudes that have been towards immigration and then the policies at different times of our history. And then we'll spend a lot of time in Reconstruction, which is a super important part of American history. It's a short time frame. It's about 10 to 12 years, but it's hugely impactful and has a lot of through line to where we are now. And I'm really excited that SPA teaches it because not every school does. And this is a really interesting project because we're going to be unpacking how people's exposure to certain viewpoints, certain media, certain ideas shape how they walk in the world and like what policies they vote for or what policies they roll out if they're a leader. And that's really timely to what's going on now because we all can consume different news right now and have radically different perspectives of what's going on in our own country. So I think the kids are really going to enjoy that one. And then we do like a do-it-yourself project on industrialization where kids get to investigate the kind of birth of a product. And then at the end, we'll do a capstone project where students are basically investigating what does it mean to them to be an American. So lots of good stuff coming this year. These are the platforms we use. Google Classroom is primarily for communication, mine to the kids and them to me. Zoom recordings, access to slides and reminders of assignments. So immediately after each class that I have with the students, I go onto the Google Classroom, I post the slideshow so they have access to day one slides all the way through now. And I just post it every time after I add to it. They have access to the Zoom recording of the class itself if they need to hear my melodious voice again, or if they were absent. And then I also remind them like, here's your next steps. We have classes held through Zoom on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:20 to 11:10. And I will also hold small group workshops for students via Zoom as well. We're on the PLP and Summit is where you will find all their assignments, their checkpoints, their projects, their power focus areas, their most current up-to-date grade. And if they're missing anything, that's the best place to go. And I can post announcements there for students, and I do use that fairly regularly. Now, whether they read it or not, I don't know. But I try to just post, announce everywhere. And then Power School is where you will find attendance, and then quarterly, semester, and year-long grades. Okay, so please, please, please reach out to me anytime. My socially distanced door is always open. You can email me, you can text me, or you can cold call me, but I don't know if I'll answer, but you're welcome to try. And then please let me know if you want to schedule a phone call or a Google Meet. It's so nice to talk to you. And email's great, and I understand that sometimes it's the most convenient thing. You can bang it off at midnight or whatever. But if we really want to dive deep and support your kid, our kid, it's nice to be able to have a conversation. So I'm always here for you guys. I'm always here for the kids. So just please reach out. We're going to have a good as year as possible. And I'm really excited by all the sweet baby angels that you guys are doing such an amazing job of raising. I hope you have a great evening. Thanks for hanging with me. Night.